Alright folks, let's get into our No Frills Web Animation Sequencing Challenge Stage 1 results. I'm calling this No Frills for a reason, alright? No fancy effects or anything crazy. So let me just run this, keep an eye on my finished animation here. The two blocks meet, they pause, and then they go away. So that's all this animation challenge required, alright? That the boxes come in from opposing sizes, they meet, they pause, and go away. So I'm going to pull down this little bar here and we'll look at the GSAP solution that uses a GreenSock timeline up here. Now I'm not going to go through all the syntax. This isn't a how to learn GSAP lesson. I have plenty of those for free and in my courses. So right now what I want to do is just sort of focus on the code readability here, all right? For the instructions for this, I said red animates from an x of 0 for 1 second, okay? Well, even if you don't know GSAP, you could say, oh, there's a red thing here, there's the word from, so you could pretty simply put together red animates from an x of 0 for a duration of 1 second. It's all on one line, and as you get to learn GSAP, it reads very much like a sentence, and the timeline reads sort of like a paragraph. Next, oh, the blue thing animates from an x of 350 for 1 second. And you don't know what this 0 means, but I'm going to tell you, it's the position parameter, which means we're going to start at a time of 0. So basically, both of these two things are starting at exactly the same time. Reading on down the list, oh, 2, that's different. Well, the red thing animates to a y of 0 for 2 seconds, and this for the position parameter means start it 1 second later. So that's where our little delay or pause comes in when these two things meet. And next, the blue thing is animating to a y of 300 for 2 seconds, and this position parameter means you're going to start at exactly the same time as the previous animation. Again, I admit that could be a little bit cryptic if it's the first time you're seeing it, but I can help you with that. What I want to point out is that the code is only really 4 lines, and you have to say that it's pretty easy to read, alright, even if you don't know GSAP. And I want to make one special note before I go on to some of the other solutions, that when I'm animating the X value, I only have to specify the X value. When I'm animating the Y value, only the Y value. And that's going to be important as we go into our alternative approaches. Alrighty, our first example comes from Shaw, aka Shashaw on Twitter, and of CodePen fame here, alright? Let's take a look at his solution using CSS Animations. Alrighty, first off, let's do a little test. Let's run it. All we need is one iteration. Let's keep an eye on these boxes. Boom. Boom. Very nice. Definitely gets the job done. So you could say that yes, CSS Animations can handle this basic animation. Let's take a look at the code. We'll scroll down a little bit. Boop, 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 boop. That's all the stuff I had in there. Sorry for wasting your time. And then here we go. So for the box element, he is being very clever, and for each box, he is letting them share these settings where they're going to have its first animation of 1 second and the second animation of 2 seconds. The first animation has a 0-second delay, the second one 2 seconds. We have the timing function declared here, and we have the fill mode of backwards and forwards. As someone who's not familiar with CSS animations, I found these things confusing and had to look them up. But hey, not his fault. So, scrolling on down the list, things get a little bit simpler when we see the red element. He's assigning the animation name of red box in and red box out. So these two animations are going to play in sequence for the red box. Scrolling on down, you'll see that he has the keyframe set up for red box in here and then red box out. The code is definitely clean. But where I have a problem with CSS Animations is that everything is sort of in these separate parts of the code. It's not just all easy to consume at one glance. And where I'm particularly not thrilled is where here, yes, we have the word from, we're animating from these coordinates, but you can't look at this on its own and really know, is the X and the Y both animating? I just don't particularly care for having to specify 2 values when you're only animating one of them. Scrolling on down, we have more for red box out, and then for blue, we're doing the same. Here, I'll do a quick little zoom out so you get an idea of the scope of all of the code. Again, it works, but I'm just not so sure if somebody coming in here for the first time could really quickly assess which animation happens first, which one happens second, and stuff like that. Either way, awesome job, Shaw. Thank you so much for contributing. It's great to have you as part of this challenge. Our next entry comes from Louis Hoebregts, aka Mambo Liu, on Twitter and elsewhere, and he decided to use the Web Animations API. Let's check it out. Alright, so in this animation you'll see the boxes meet, they pause, and then they go up to the top. He also put in a repeat, alright, which wasn't necessary, but hey, extra points there. Cool. So let's take a look at the code. Now for the Web Animations API, it's basically like writing CSS keyframes, but in JavaScript. So you'll see that the approach he took is for the red element, that the entire lifespan of the animation, coming in, pausing, and going up, is all dictated in this series of keyframe settings here. Now, what this illustrates is one of the problems I sort of have with regular CSS keyframes. It's very difficult to understand the timing or adjust it, okay? So by just looking at this code, we don't really know how long this part of the animation takes, all right? Because the entire sequence is dictated its duration here as 5 seconds. So if somebody said, oh, make the going up part 3 seconds, already you're sort of scratching your head like, well, where do I change that? So it doesn't necessarily make sense as far as readability goes, or I think editability goes. And again, this is not a criticism of Louis or his code, it's just the way WAPI works. And another thing I don't particularly care for is the fact, again, that, looking at this code, you're setting the X and Y when only you need to change the X value. So I don't think, like GSAP code, it's as easily scannable and understandable. The Web Animations API had some promising features like groups, which are similar to GSAP timelines, but frankly, I haven't heard much about those recently, and I have no idea where they stand with browser support. Either way, great job, Louis. I love this example because it gives me something to compare to. Louis just released an article on CSS tricks using the Web Animations API and shows you how to do this particle effect. So definitely check it out. The guy knows what he's talking about. And again, it's not his fault that there's lack of support for some of these features. The next entry comes from Jhey, who's been awesome at supporting me on Twitter, and he takes an interesting approach using CSS animations with scoped variables. Check this out. We'll do a fresh load and you will see that the animation does comply with the requirements. Awesome job. Now going into the CSS, you'll see they took a very similar approach to Shaw in being able to group common settings with both the red and blue elements, and he is using CSS animations. But what gets interesting is down here, he's using these scoped variables for all the X and Y coordinates that he's going to be animating to. And the same thing works for blue, all right? And where it gets really cool is that he has one set of keyframes set up for the horizontal action and another one for the vertical, okay? And inside of the keyframed information, he's referencing those scoped variables. So when the horizontal animation is applied to the blue element, it's going to use the X and Y values only for the blue box. And down here, same thing. He has another keyframe set up here for vertical. And again, whether or not it's the blue box or the red box animating, these X and Y values are all going to be different. So I definitely give huge points here for being creative and thinking outside the box and doing something I had really no concept about. Whether or not the code is more readable and editable for a beginner, I'll let the user decide. I set out here to prove some things and also to learn some things, and I've definitely learned some things. So thank you all. So listen folks, it's no secret that I'm not a huge fan of CSS animations and stuff, but all these people who took the challenge are masters of their craft. Check out their CodePen profiles, follow them on Twitter. You're gonna see some amazing stuff. It's worth noting that they finished all of these examples probably within 30 minutes of me posting the challenge, and that's very impressive. Also, they took this challenge sort of knowing they're walking into a trap. The next version of this challenge, I'm going to throw some stuff out there that sort of tests the flexibility of these approaches. I'd love to see some more people jump in and sort of carry the torch into round 2, where my client comes back with some sort of annoying changes. The Challenge 2 video coming up next. If you want to learn more about GSAP 3 from me, check out my Creative Coding Club. All my courses, $1.99 for the first month, $4.95 after that. Can't beat it. Offer ends March 31st, 2020. Get on in.